Keeping safety front of mind is all about communication. Welcome to the Farm Safety Roundup, a podcast series focused on important conversations to help keep farmers, their families, and their workers safe. Farm Safety Roundup is brought to you by the agricultural team at Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. With today's timely topic, I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Let's get to it. It's time for another episode of the Farm Safety Roundup, episode 13. Today is Staying Grounded Amid Upheaval, and we'll be talking to Nicole Sherman. Looking forward to it. Managing risk is a critical component of a successful farming operation. Staying profitable means staying on top of fluctuating markets, unpredictable weather patterns, and other factors that can really impact your farm income. You know, the uncertainty around the onset of tariffs is an added stressor on top of all this, and a significant one for Canadian farmers. In this climate, health and safety may not be the top priority, but Nicole Sherman is here to share why it should be, particularly when it comes to mental health and, of course, your personal well-being. Nicole, it is great to meet you.
Same to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you're a health and safety consultant with Workplace Safety and Prevention Services, WSPS. Nicole, likely safe to say that given all the upheaval in the world and all the distractions and, you know, the uncontrollables, people are pretty distracted right now. And I'm guessing that can't be really good for safety stats out there.
You're exactly right. There's just so many compounding and triggering stressors that we have, and you've already touched on it. You know, the elephant in the room is the tariffs right now, and that the ag sector is dealing with in that case. And we're coming into planting season and preparing for that. And there's just a number of different stressors. And when something draws your attention away from the task, you know, that you're doing, especially when we're working around major hazards like heavy equipment and large animals and toxic chemicals, this absolutely is a safety concern. You know, there's a lot of routine activities that we do in farming, but we can't function on autopilot. And, you know, when people are distracted and not paying attention, then we tend to fail to see some of these hazards. And so what does that cause is potentially injury or, heaven forbid, a fatality on the job. And there can be costly errors. We see lower productivity and downtime and damage to the equipment and property. So it's very important that we are not just physically ready to handle the task at hand, but also mentally ready as well.
Yeah, you know, farming it's a physically demanding job, maybe less so than a couple generations ago, but it is physically demanding work. But it's also important to remember that we're not just talking about the physical health and safety, but also the people's mental health and personal well-being as well.
Yeah, our well-being hinges on being, you know, physically well, but also mentally well and socially well as well. And you know, we all have mental health, right? We all have mental health, and it's just a matter of whether or not we're in a state of good mental health or poor mental health. And that's no different from our physical health as well. And according to the Farmers Health Alliance, there are farmers in Canada do face high stress, and over half of Canadian farmers report that they've experienced anxiety, which is much greater than any other sector that we see. And, you know, there are staggering statistics out there to say too that, you know, suicidal thoughts are on the minds of our farmers as well. And, you know, the unpredictability of things and everyone needing to know their limits. But it's also good to know when, you know, when we don't prioritize our mental health, even simple chores can become stressful, right? And physically or mentally responding to that stress is definitely not a sign of weakness.
Yeah, mental health has been commanding more and more attention in agriculture. You know, you think about all the farm meetings, there seems to always be a concurrent session now, at least one, having to do with this topic. Do you think we're making some headway breaking down some of the stigmas?
I think we are, and you're exactly on point with saying that we now are starting to see this conversation, this topic to come up more and more. And there was actually a study done by the University of Guelph in 2018 that said about 40% of farmers said they would be uneasy seeking help. Be interesting to see kind of what those numbers are as we've kind of progressed with it. But there has been progress in the last 6 years. But the stigma around mental health in agriculture is a persistent issue and still a concern. And I think that Some of that revolves around just a lack of understanding of the mental health challenges that, farmers face, and the perception that, maybe we were going to be seen as weak or unable to perform the work. And sometimes we also see that rural areas often lack adequate mental health resources, but it's so important that we break down this stigma in order to help those who are suffering in silence right now. And I will say that I have, spoken with farmers, and I do feel that they are starting to feel more comfortable in voicing the struggles and the challenges that they face on the farm and how that is impacting their mental health overall, and that they acknowledge that things aren't easy. It's okay to say that I'm not okay today, and that, farmers are some of the most resilient people I know, but they're still human, right? They're not robots running on autopilot. I do think that there is almost this appreciation for the increased attention that mental health is getting in agriculture, because it's almost giving this, gateway or openness to allow farmers to have a safe space and really talk about what's going on, be open, be real and honest about what they're facing and their struggles.
Yeah, and the other thing, just like the consumer is not this one homogeneous unit, the farmer is not singular either. We've got
No.
a very diverse workforce, right? We got young workers, we got old boys, we got migrant farm workers, and all of them are going to face different kinds of mental health challenges throughout the season, and not only different challenges, but probably how they deal with it.
You're exactly right. The one size idea definitely does not fit all, right? One size doesn't fit all in this case. And, we think of even, like you pointed out, the migrant workers that we get in Canada and the challenges that they face, maybe due to isolation, missing family, the cultural and potential language barriers, lack of education and understanding health and safety and those types of things in Canada. So there are programs that do exist. Examples are, the Farmer Wellness Initiative for International Agricultural Worker Wellness Program, which does provide mental health support to those migrant farm workers. And there are others as well that exist, but it is very important to have, resources that are relevant to the audience. And I think that farming is very unique, and there are supports and resources out there that are geared towards farming and that sector. Providing resources in different languages is important.
Mm.
Having different touch points, tailgate talks, encouraging the dialogue. And the same, again, very true for those young workers and the old boys that are out there too, and what are they experiencing. So very important to have diverse and relevant supports for those in the farming sector.
Yeah, no, while so much is going on here, and on the farm and maybe in our heads as we're trying to juggle all of it, dealing with the unpredictability and additional stresses that are
Mhm.
being heaped upon everybody all the time, that's not going to change. But
No.
action items, okay? What are some things that farmers of all types can do to prioritize their mental health? What are those
Yeah.
action items?
I love this question because I think that it doesn't have to be something big. It can be something small, such as just staying connected. We need to make time to still connect with family and friends and fellow farmers throughout the day. I get that we're going to be coming into go time here, planting season. You think of harvest time, which is another major go time as well, but getting time to connect with family, make sure you come in for dinner, or have some type of connect point with those individuals and the ones who understand your challenges and what you are going through, joining local ag related community groups and seeking peer supports. Another one I think of is making sure that we set boundaries, right, between work and personal time. Make sure you do take regular breaks. And that's not just good for your mental health, that's good for your physical health as well. Looking forward to taking some time off when you're able. Understanding that, farming does have its ebbs and flows. So we are going to come into peak season, but we know that there will be some lulls that we can go and we can organize and schedule some time. We need to try and prevent that burnout. Even finding your own, you know, ways of coping, whether that's maybe you are more introverted and just like to read and or have quiet time is great. Maybe listening to music, getting some exercise, going for a walk, even just turning the TV on at the end of the day and watching that hockey game is great kind of unwind time. And we need to find those things that are those healthy ways of recharging our battery so that we can still be, that important person that our farm needs at the end of the day to keep it running. Because if you're not healthy, the farm isn't going to run as good as it should, right?
Yeah.
Exercise and nutrition is key, right? Maintaining a healthy diet, regular physical activity certainly improves that overall well-being. And I also do think that being open to learning about mental health, and this kind of goes back to my kind of comment about we're breaking down that stigma, but understanding, mental illness, understanding that it isn't just a switch that we can turn on and off, right? No one decides, when they wake up in the morning or decide for themselves that they want to be diagnosed with depression, right? Just like we don't decide for ourselves that, we'd like to be diagnosed with cancer or heart disease, we have to start looking at mental illness the same as physical illnesses that we get. And it isn't something that we choose to put on ourselves. And there actually is, through the Farmer Wellness Initiative, and In the Know. It's called In the Know, and it's a session that you can sign up for. And it's a couple hour session where you can learn more about mental illness and the specifics in ag. So, and I do think it's also important to to access those support services. Feel okay to say I need help, or talk to someone else when you think they need to be reached out to because you're seeing something different in them, and you think that they may need some support.
In addition to WSPS, which has a whole library of resources, what are some other focused supports and resources for farmers to access regarding mental health issues?
Yeah, the Agriculture Wellness Ontario, and I would stress to say for other provinces and areas of Canada, certainly look into what is local to your province and your jurisdiction. But an example is the Farmer Wellness Initiative, which provides farmers and farm families and their employees, spouses, dependents, free mental health counseling specific to the unique challenges that can be experienced by the agricultural community, which is so important. So you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, English, French, Spanish languages to be able to have that support provided. The Guardian Network, also a great network as far as volunteers come get some individualized training on suicide prevention program. They can kind of complete that training program, and they're equipped then with strategies and tools to identify the signs of mental distress and to be able to react to farmers at risk and know what direction to point them in to receive appropriate mental health crisis resources. Canada-wide, we have the National Farmer Mental Health Alliance offering mental health services and training tailored, again, to farmers, farm families, and veterinarians. Also look for your local kind of suicide crisis helpline. For Ontario, it's 988. So truly that is getting into speaking about the most severe and more high risk type of situations where we are getting suicidal thoughts. And there are people there able to help you work through that by just calling a quick and easy number. So,
and Nicole, anything else to just wrap up this pretty heavy subject?
Yeah.
Pretty, as we're like just about to start to get a little bit closer to put seed in the ground here. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, as you can tell, I think I'm pretty passionate about this topic, but it is very critical, especially during these stressful times that we're facing, to continue the conversation. And I think that's what I try to impart all the time I do sessions like this, is to continue to have the conversation and start to feel comfortable having the conversation, especially here now in the ag sector. And again, it helps to make it easier for those to speak up and ask for help and feel okay. And if you've had someone reach out to you to say, I'm not okay today, then you should be patting yourself on the back because you have created a safe environment, you have created a rapport and a relationship with that individual that they feel safe to say, I'm not okay today and I need some help, or I need a listening ear. So it's okay to reach out and ask how someone is doing when you notice that they're not themselves. And if it's not today that they want to talk to you, you've at least opened the door where they may then reach out at a later point. So another critical piece is to make sure that we don't judge those for speaking up and seeking help, but to look at that person as almost being very courageous and brave enough to prioritize their mental health and well-being, knowing the stigma that exists within mental health and within the sector around this topic. But our mental health is just as important as our physical health, and we need to treat them the same.
Well, I encourage everybody out there in the audience to access free and easy to use resources on this subject. Go to WSPS.ca/farm safety. That's WSPS.ca/farm safety. Nicole, it has been great to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us here for the Farm Safety Roundup.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me.
With agricultural expertise to help keep farmers, their families, and their workers safe, Farm Safety Roundup is a podcast series produced by RealAgriculture with the team of ag specialists at Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. Go to the website WSPS.ca/farm safety. There you're going to find free health and safety resources, and you'll also be able to check this episode's show notes for information on the topics discussed. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time to talk all things farm safety right here on the Farm Safety Roundup.